back. Earlier we talked about artifacts that are thousands of years old that correlate with the Old Testament, proving some of their stories, some that didn't. Now we're talking about the New Testament and findings. Thank you so much for sticking around. Tell us what you have here.
We have a number of artifacts in front of us here, including some more lamps. I think the lamp, Larry, that is most important here, I'll try not to break this, is a very small one. It's a mold lamp. It comes from the time of Jesus. It's the kind of lamp that the story in the Gospels about the 10 maidens, the wise maidens and the foolish maidens, this is the kind of lamp we're talking about. So it's small. You wouldn't be able to put a lot of oil in it. And then we have a couple of them from the Roman period, also time of Jesus. And then we have one that's, if we think of Aladdin's lamp, not metal, but still ceramic, then the final one over here. This one is Islamic, and so we're talking anywhere from the 7th, 8th centuries AD. That's the kind of lamp we have here.
Wow. And this is like a door knocker?
This is a door knocker from Roman Jerusalem. So you'd come in and knock on the door.
I'm going to lift it up so the viewers can see.
There you go. And along with it, which is bronze, you see the greenish tint to it, so that's saying that it's bronze, is this little shovel over here, used to bring ashes out of an altar or out of a fireplace. Again, probably from Jerusalem. We don't know entirely.
What is this head here?
This is one of many statues. It's a small one. It's a child statue. These are often dedicatory. Sometimes they're used in connection with burials. So there are lots of these around, and we happen to have one here.
And lastly, this grouping of
And then a grouping of different kinds of vessels. This is a cooking pot that would be put over a fire, and you can see the soot on the bottom of it. And then a strainer. We thought that strainers were new, but this one is a strainer. And then what you're holding on to is a vessel for some kind of liquid, probably fairly special liquid, maybe oil, something like that, that you would use, not wildly, but use with, economically, something like that.
So let's go back to the images you have that, again, correlate with the Bible, and some that don't.
And some that don't. I think the first image is a terrific one. It's only part of an inscription found in Jerusalem. There's another one that's complete, and we'll see a picture of that in a minute. But this one has on the bottom the Greek word for death, thanatos. And this marked the barrier. It was right near the stairs that went up to the court of the Israelites in the temple of Herod, New Testament times, and it said the Gentiles who go past this point will be responsible for their own death, which will surely ensue. That's what the text says.
Wow.
So a definite marking.
Separation.
And that actually shows up in one of the epistles of Paul, the book of Ephesians. Talks about removing the dividing wall of hostility between Jews and Gentiles. So he's talking about these inscriptions.
Wow.
So they have those kinds of
What's the next? Let's look at the next
And
slide.
then the next image is a second, the same inscription. So we'll scoot past it, but it's the second inscription found barring Gentiles into the
Let's pull up the next image.
The next slide.
So the next image is a tomb.
First century Herodian period tomb.
So New Testament.
Illustrates the kind of tomb that Jesus was buried in. And this is something that Doug and I excavated in Jordan. You can see the entrance to the tomb.
You two discovered this. That's
We
amazing.
discovered this, right. And there's a rolling stone that slides back and forth in its trough, if you will. And when you get inside, there's room for, 12 people to be buried.
Wow.
Niches in the wall.
Could one person move that stone?
With difficulty, yeah.
So
probably,
because that's what it says in the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can do it, especially if it's smooth. If it's smooth, very well, and if the channel
From the
is
inside,
smooth.
you couldn't.
No,
you
have
could
to
not
be
do it.
outside. Yeah.
Okay, let's pull up the next one.
You'd be locked in otherwise. Yes. And now, I think one of the interesting places to visit in Jerusalem from New Testament times, a group of houses from or belonging to the wealthy. Some would say the Sadducees. You think about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Some people would argue that these are Sadducean houses. The Sadducees were wealthy, they lived near the temple, that's where this house is. Very nice houses. I wish we had some of the pottery from these houses. It's spectacular. It's imported from Italy, and it's just spectacular pottery.
Let me ask you, what did you discover that kind of argues the biblical stories?
Well, I would say that this kind of find, although it doesn't say the Sadducees lived here, one makes inferences. And if lines of evidence converge, then one can say, okay, there is some support here. In the New Testament, there's not as much to argue about as there is in the Old Testament. I mean, was there an Exodus? When did it happen? Did it happen like the Bible says? Was there a King David? Those are hot items in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, we know there was a Jesus. We know there was a Pilate. We have an inscription from Caesarea that has Pontius Pilatus, Pontius Pilate's name on it. So
a book that people are reading, a book that people are reading now by Reza Aslan called Zealot talks about Jesus, you know, and he has the pros and cons of the relationship of history to the gospel story.
Right. So you've got those kinds of things going on.
So cool. And there's so much more that you guys brought that I would love to share. We need to do a whole documentary on you too. And how cool that you go over there and you are excavating, you're discovering all this history that tells these stories. And you're having a conference.
We are. Thank you, Taylor. We have a conference we do every year. This is our 5th annual one at La Sierra University on the western side of Riverside. In fact, it's close to Corona. We could almost call it Corona, California, just off the 91. It's called Archaeology Discovery Weekend, and this year, November 16 and 17, it's on Jerusalem, of all things. So all of these artifacts, many of these that we've been talking about, connect with Jerusalem.
Will they be on display there as well?
They will. They definitely will.
So viewers, you can check it out yourself, learn a whole lot about ancient times.
Got lectures and stuff for children, stuff for teachers, all kinds of things.
And experts from all around the world are coming to this conference.
November 16 and 17.
November 16 and 17, okay. There's the information there, and if you're interested, please attend. How fascinating. I could talk to you guys all day, all week. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.